today, we're going to talk about a place on Earth that is constantly creating itself. I mean, a country that is literally getting bigger right under our feet. But how is that even possible?
Okay, get this. What if I told you there's a country out there that gets bigger every single year? And no, I'm not talking about politics or some massive construction project. I mean, the Earth itself is making it grow. This isn't science fiction, folks. This is real-life geology. And we're talking about Iceland.
All right. So how much bigger are we talking about here? It's 5 centimeters. Yeah, I know, 5 centimeters. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, right? But don't let that small number fool you. This slow, steady growth is being driven by some of the most powerful forces on the entire planet. To really get a feel for what 5 centimeters is, just pull out your credit card. It's about that wide. Or, for a more fun example, think about 2 Lego bricks stacked side by side. Now picture the entire country of Iceland stretching that much every single year. Kind of wild when you think about it that way.
So what in the world is causing this? To understand it, we've got to zoom way out and talk about the science behind our planet's drifting continents.
So here's the deal. Earth's surface isn't one solid shell. It's actually broken up into these enormous pieces of rock, which we call tectonic plates. The easiest way to think about them is like giant rocky rafts floating on a sea of super hot, kinda gooey rock. They're always moving. Sometimes they crash into each other, and sometimes, like in Iceland's case, they pull apart.
And Iceland's incredible growth is happening because it's caught right in the middle of a tectonic tug-of-war. It sits smack dab on the boundary between 2 giant plates, the North American plate, which is pulling west, and the Eurasian plate, which is pulling east. Each one moves about 2.5 centimeters a year. You add them up, and there's your 5 centimeters of separation.
Okay, so plates are moving apart all over the world. Why is it so dramatic and so visible in Iceland? Well, it all comes down to its incredibly unique spot on the map.
So here's what makes Iceland so mind-bogglingly special. That boundary between the plates, it's part of something called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Now, this is a gigantic underwater mountain range. Almost all of it is hidden deep beneath the ocean. But in Iceland, it actually rises up and breaks the surface. This is one of just 2 places on the entire planet where you can stand on that ridge on dry land. That's it, just 2.
And because it's right there, on land, you can do something absolutely incredible. If you go to Þingvellir National Park, you can see these deep cracks, these fissures, where the Earth is literally tearing itself apart. And the most famous one, Silfra, lets you do the impossible. It's the only place on Earth where you can literally swim or dive right between 2 continents. Okay, so we've got this rift, this gap in the Earth that's getting wider every year. So what fills it in? Well, this is where the fire part of Iceland's Land of Fire and Ice nickname comes roaring to life. That separation kicks off a pretty spectacular process of creation.
It's actually a pretty straightforward but incredibly powerful 3-step process. Step 1, the plates pull apart. Step 2, that creates a gap, right? A weak spot in the Earth's crust. And step 3, that weakness is basically an open door for super hot magma from deep within the Earth to rise up, fill that void, and then cool down into brand new rock. Eruption after eruption, this is literally how Iceland builds itself from the inside out.
And this isn't some ancient history lesson. This is happening right now. You probably remember the eruption of, and I'm going to try this, Eyjafjallajökull back in 2010. Its ash cloud shut down air travel all over Europe for weeks. But that's just one story. Go back to the 1780s, and the Laki eruption changed the global climate. And just recently, the Fagradalsfjall eruptions were so accessible, they became this crazy tourist spectacle. Every single eruption is just another reminder of this land-building machine at work.
Of course, you can't have 2 continents pulling your country in opposite directions without a little drama. It doesn't happen quietly. All that tension has to go somewhere, and it leads to some pretty shaky and predictable side effects.
Yeah, I'm talking about earthquakes. All that pulling and stretching builds up a ton of stress in the rock, and eventually it has to be released. Iceland gets thousands of quakes every single year. Now, most of them are so small you'd never even feel them, but they are a constant, rumbling reminder of those massive forces at work. You could absolutely call them the island's growing pains.
All right, so we've seen how Iceland grows and the drama that comes along for the ride. But what does this all mean for the future?
If we fast forward, what's this place going to look like? Let's do the math. In 100 years, Iceland will be about 5 meters wider. That's around 16 feet, which is taller than a single-story house. Now, let's jump ahead 1,000 years. It'll be 50 meters wider. And yeah, sure, erosion is happening too, but this relentless creation of new land means Iceland is on a slow but totally unstoppable path to getting bigger.
And if all that isn't wild enough for you, get ready for a few more quick facts. That same process that's growing Iceland, it's the exact same process that created the entire Atlantic Ocean. That water in the Silfra fissure we talked about, it's so crystal clear you can see for over 100 meters. Insane! And geologically speaking, Iceland is a baby, one of the youngest bits of land on the whole planet. It all comes together to explain that perfect nickname, right? The land of fire and ice, where volcanoes and glaciers are literally neighbors.
So the next time you see a map of Iceland, just take a second and remember, the map your kids or grandkids see will show a country that is just a little bit bigger. It's a living, breathing piece of our planet, a powerful reminder that our world is never standing still. It's always changing, always evolving. And that is what makes it so endlessly fascinating.